I'd like to call this meeting to order. Any declarations of interest? Seeing none, adoption of agenda. Councillor Decker, mover, seconder, Councillor Longo. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Adoption of minutes. Councillor meeting minutes, April 21st, 2020. Mover, Councillor Neal, seconder, Councillor DeRose. Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Mayor's report. There has been great lines of communication between all levels of government dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic as well as other related issues. The area mayors and regional chair hold a teleconference every Wednesday. Mayor Campion from Welland, Mayor Steele from Port Colborne, and I hold a teleconference with MP Vance Badaway every Friday to deal with issues in Niagara Centre and to discuss programs available for residents and businesses, as well as other issues and concerns. Manoj Dalwaria, Jeff Holman, Maria Morrow, and I had a Zoom meeting with our MPP, Jeff Birch, last Wednesday to discuss items that he can raise on our behalf at the provincial level. Our Emergency Operations Center group has met daily up till last Friday and will meet Monday, Wednesday, and Friday moving forward unless additional meetings are required. These meetings are also done using the Zoom meeting platform. Fire Chief Terry Dixon also sits on the Regional Emergency Group. The 12 area CAOs and Regional Acting CAO meet regularly as well to discuss issues not only affecting their municipalities, but also the region as a whole. Our City Clerk, Donna Delvecchio, sits on the Regional Communications Group that develop and implement effective communication strategies like Stay Home Niagara. Most of my time lately has been working with local businesses to address any issues or concerns they have in conjunction with upper levels of government and the Niagara Economic Rapid Response Team. By working together, we are seeing results and providing input on program positives and shortfalls to the federal and provincial representatives. Our community spirit continues to shine with many more examples since our last meeting. Mars Thorold Foodland made an $1,800 donation to Thorold Community Care for those in need. Our Heroes Support for Frontline Workers t-shirt campaign broke their original goal of $5,000. They are now at $15,000 and are aiming for a new goal of $25,000 to donate to the Niagara Health System. This will go towards a much-needed piece of equipment used to clean PPE for frontline workers. The t-shirts are $20 and $15 from every purchase is donated. Thank you, Santino Perry, owner of Impact Promotions in Thorold, and Joe Manella from Parkway Social for this great initiative. And you can see I'm wearing the t-shirt tonight, and I see Councillor Wilson as well wearing her t-shirt. And these are the t-shirts that are $20 with $15 going to the Niagara Health System. So let's get everybody on board in the community, councillors, city staff, a great initiative. 2 more food giveaways were successfully completed, one for dairy products and the second with fresh fruit and vegetables. Thank you once again to our generous anonymous donor, Councillor Hanley, for spearheading the organization of the volunteer teams, Councillor Sentence for assisting at both of these events, MPP Jeff Birch, MP Vance Badaway, as well as all the volunteers who stepped up, including our city operations group. And we've also had Councillor Decker involved when she can make it and she's not at work. Patricia and John Wilson, who are very active in the Thorold Lions Club, are producing cloth masks and distributing them to those in need. Daryl Fortin, founder of Niagara Gives Back, and his mom are also producing cloth masks for those in need and have made one for me as well with the Canadian flags on it. These are just some examples of the City of Thorold's community spirit. Moving forward, let's stay the course and follow the important messaging regarding social distancing, washing hands, etc. This is not time to let up. We will get through the COVID-19 together and emerge stronger and more united. On Thursday, May 7th at 9 p.m., I will be flipping the switch on the Niagara Light of Hope at Lock 7 Museum. This initiative, led by the 2021 Canada Games Host Society and their marketing team, begin at regional headquarters on Sunday, May 3rd, and will be touring every municipality in the region over the next 2 weeks. The Light of Hope serves as a message of hope and solidarity amidst the COVID-19 pandemic and will shine for 1 hour between 9 and 10 p.m. in the evening. This Sunday, May 10th, is Mother's Day. On behalf of City Council, I would like to thank you for all you do and wish you all a very special day. The Thorold Tunnel closure, originally set to begin on May 4th, has been delayed due to unforeseen circumstances. The Thorold Tunnel will be fully closed from Sunday, May 10th at 12 noon until 6 a.m. on Monday, May 18th. So the actual closure now will actually be shorter than the original closure, and actually is only just over a week in length instead of 2 weeks. Today marks the 75th anniversary of the liberation of the Netherlands from the fall of 1944 to the spring of 1945. We remember the close to 175,000 Canadians who took part in the campaign to liberate the Netherlands, and more than 7,600 who made the ultimate sacrifice, lest we forget. Our deepest condolences go out to the family and friends of the 6 individuals, 4 aircrew and 2 sailors aboard Canadian Forces CH-148 Cyclone helicopter that crashed off the coast of Greece. And in closing, our heartfelt condolences to family and friends of those who have lost their lives to COVID-19, especially those from the city of Thorold. And I thank you. That's the end of my mayor's report. And we move on to statement by councillors, and I have Councillor Hanley. 2 items: library functioning during COVID-19 and use of municipal roads while the Thorold Tunnel is closed. Councillor Hanley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One of the issues I had brought up before in regards to the library, and knowing that it may not be operating at full capacity and that it's a publicly funded source, and I knowing that council really doesn't have decisions on how the operations go, but I've had concerns in regards to staffing and what expenditures or cuts they're looking at taking, or operating costs, and what they've been doing as far as trying to eliminate the expenditure in regards to the library. You know, I was hoping that we may have had something come forward before the scene that I brought up the last council meeting, and I'd asked maybe I should have put a motion forward in regards to it. But it just concerns me that in the times that we're having in regards to this, that I've seen nothing in regards to what this department may be doing during COVID-19 and where they may be going forward, because the library may be closed for some time to come.
I'll turn this over to our CAO, Manoj Dalmaria, to speak on this. And Donna, did you want to speak as well?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have been in touch with our Chief Librarian. She has put together a statement, and which I will forward to our City Clerk, Donna Del Vecchio. She can read out the statement that we have received from the library. Thank you.
So here's what I've received from the Chief Librarian. It says, since the library was closed on March 13th, 2020 at 1 p.m., library staff have been doing meaningful work such as long-standing, completing projects, and allowing library business to continue. Library tasks include indexing of local history. Library patrons are able to search for the names of individuals in business to help piece together their family history. They're accepting deliveries and processing materials. Books and DVDs are continued to be purchased and added to the library's collection. These items will be ready for when the library doors open. Virtual programming. In the month of May, there there are 60 programs scheduled. They're doing library card registration. Residents of the Niagara region are able to apply for a Thorold library card online. Electronic resources, they're purchasing and posting electronic resources such as ebooks and audiobooks to the library's website. Administration, board correspondence, audit, facility checks of Chestnut Hall and the library, paying for expenses and responding to alarm calls. While working from home, staff have been using their own devices or borrowing the libraries, and this has cost the library $0. Their outcomes. In April, the library led 28 programs such as toddler time, book clubs, garden clubs, and had 189 participants, with the goal to double the number of participants for the month of May. April 6th to May 5th, they have registered 38 library cards. And based on the response, the library will continue to provide online programs in addition to in-person programs when the library opens. They have received some notes at the library of well wishes. It says, over the last several weeks, we miss you very much. Looking forward to returning in the future. And they'll be presenting a detailed financial report at the May 19th agenda as part of a bigger report.
So seeing that, I appreciate it. And seeing that it almost sounds like they can operate the library 100% from home. We may not need a facility in the future. That it can all be done online. Doug Ford wanted to do e-learning online, and people are against it, and it's come to fruition now. But, I hate to be critical about it. It seems that everybody in the private sector are losing their jobs, but everybody in the public sector has been able to maintain their jobs and keep doing what they've always been doing all along. But in the private sector, it just doesn't happen to haven't worked that way. And I just see that there's, no initiative being brought forward to council in any department. And, and I'm hoping to see a report. I know it's coming forward on the 19th. I believe I've been told, because I was going to pose those questions today too, in regards to what we're doing. I see what's happening in the private sector. I'm a part of it. I'm idle. My wife's idle. But it seems that in the public sector, and any entities in regards to the public sector are untouchable. And I can't see that with all the losses that are forecasted in the library boards and everywhere else, that we can operate as is, but the private sector can't do it. It's unbelievable how the public sector can do it, even the region to say it. I'll discuss that in another item coming up later, but I appreciate the feedback. Thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone that wants to speak on that? Councillor Sentence.
I just, maybe it's the union side of me coming in respectfully to Councillor Hanley, but other people losing their jobs shouldn't determine what we do with our jobs and keeping people employed. These are our friends and family. They're the people that spend money in and around Thorold. They are, like I said, friends and family. They are doing meaningful work. The government has said one of the mandates is to keep people working so they can spend money in the area. And I believe that the library and our staff, if we're not losing money and the taxpayer isn't being hurt, and we are, financially responsible, I still don't see why we're laying people off or want to lay people off. There's a mental health aspect to it where people, am I losing my job this week? Am I not? I work at a paper mill, as a couple of you know, that we never know week to week. It's emotionally taxing to do this every 2 weeks. And I'm just thinking that we set a June 30th deadline for everything, because we're okay till then, that we leave everything alone until then. My thoughts, that we leave everything alone, library, our staff, because I think they do offer really good stuff right now. I think they do help people in the community, and they're our family and friends. And it's again, them being employed helps the city of Thorold. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wishes to speak on that item? Councillor Neal.
Thanks very much, Mayor. I would echo comments from Councillor Sentence that the economy will come back, and one of the main reasons the economy is going to come back and come out of it is that people like the city's employees and the library's employees are working, they have good jobs, and they will spend the money for us to get out and spend the money in the private sector. that will help the private sector come out of this particular dilemma. And so I think that, and I agree that we should take a look at it, and the library is taking a look at the staffing, and they'll bring a report back at the next meeting, and we can discuss it again. But they have laid off casual already, just similar to what the city has done. And we're all going to have to look at what we can do, but we got to respect and remember that what we do today will have an impact in 2021, 22, 23, and 24. And we don't want to go down the hole that some of the counselors in the past have gone down to the 0% increases. And all of a sudden we have to spend 10% increases in the next few years in order to come back. So we want to take a serious look at it. I agree with Councillor Hanley that we have to take a look at it, and let's put our heads together and come up with a good plan.
Councillor DeRose and then Councillor Wilson.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I have to agree with Councillor Hanley. I don't think enough's been done, and not to rain on anybody at times like this, but it seemed like no one complained that last meeting when the crossing guards were the first to be cut. And it's not like we're trying to cut anybody, but also our friends and family are taxpayers of the citizens of the city of Thorold, and we have to look out for our taxpayers' dollars also. So I'm in agreement with Councillor Hanley. Thank you.
Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm in agreement with Councillor Neal and Sentence. I do appreciate that we have laid off casuals, and I think it's a great thing that we have meaningful work for our long-term employees. I know there is a high cost to recruiting and training and developing people. So for us to lose people if we don't need to, if we're still offering services at the library, we're still helping families. I think it's in our best interest to keep that going. Also, just on the comment of e-learning, I think that's a great idea, but it's not very good learning. And I can speak to that personally from the past 2 months. It is very challenging, and I'm sure Councillor DeRose could echo that as well. I don't think, I'm speaking personally for me and any other parents I spoke to, teaching our kids that way is rough and tough. I don't think it's effective. And there's something fantastic about going to a library and picking out a book and the programs they do there. It's so wonderful for our community. So how can we just start, we can't just start cutting apart our community in ways that we come together, because we're going to need that more than ever when the doors start opening. Maybe the library won't open the way it was before. Maybe we'll have, only 5 people in at a time or 10 people, whatever that is. But I can't imagine a Thorold without a library, and I don't want to. So I'm all for supporting our staff, and if they're doing meaningful work and catching up on things that they've been backlogged in, hey, that means we don't have to hire another person next year to catch up on that work. So that's my comment. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson and Councillor Hanley.
Just one thing, we haven't laid nobody off. We didn't lay no casual laborers off. They were already laid off pre-COVID from last work season. They've just never been called back. So nobody's actually lost their job. We've never laid anybody off. So just to make that point, we just haven't called back the workers we were going to call back. So they were already laid off. Okay,
so now, so there's a report coming next meeting, am I correct, to our city clerk? Okay. Councillor Hanley, the second issue.
The tunnel, last time I brought it up, and when we had the tunnel, because one of the main issues were, and I discussed it with Jeff, and we discussed that at council in regards to maybe putting some road restrictions in effect on Kottmeyer Road and Holland Road, because what had happened the last time the tunnel was closed in both directions, even though the detour signs was directing traffic to go and take the 406 route to Highway 20 and then Highway 20 down and crossing the Allenberg Bridge, traffic was taking a detour down Kottmeyer Road and then down to Holland Road, and we've already had the work crews there and had to do an extensive repairs on Holland Road from the last time. And unless we do something to curtail, we have a week to do it. Traffic will be doing the same thing. We had transport trucks going down that road, 18-wheelers. And I know we just got rid of our road restrictions, I believe, just 4 days ago. So I'd like to see if I have to put a motion in place that we do something to curtail any of the overflow traffic from using Kottmeyer Road and Holland Road. We need to do some weight restrictions there. If I could mention that, please.
I'll turn over to Director of Operations and Community Services, Jeff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilor Handy is right, and we're still working on that resolution that was intended to look at load restrictions. There is a load restriction on Kottmeyer Road. However, that section of Holland Road does not have a restriction on it. And that's something that is very time limited. It goes from March 30th to April 30th. So we need to look at some type of, we'll have to amend the bylaw to put that in place. Unfortunately, we missed that window. However, you may recall, Councillor Handley, that the issue last time had to do with the closure of Highway 20 and the work that the region was doing on the culvert just on the west side of the Allenberg Bridge. And that caused a lot of the rerouting of the traffic onto Holland Road. In this particular case, the tunnel closure is responsibility of the Ministry of Transportation, provincial jurisdiction. They'll reroute their detours onto their roads. And if they can't achieve that, they'll reroute the traffic onto regional roads, the next jurisdiction. If the region is unable to manage that traffic, then they'll ask us to accommodate traffic on our roads. We've not been asked to do that yet. And so we're taking the approach that we're going to monitor the situation. The only thing we can really do is close the road if it becomes unsafe to use. At the moment, they're holding up. And if you have a license to drive a vehicle in Ontario, we can't restrict them from using that road. So I appreciate the effort or the interest in trying to get out in front of this. But I think the best approach, if I can suggest, is that we monitor the situation, and if the road becomes unsafe or there are some traffic problems, people or emergency vehicles can't access that section of Holland Road, then we'll take steps ourselves to close the road. And then we'll discuss the costs associated with that with the region and the province.
Okay, I appreciate that. Knowing that this may have happened, on Holland Road, I've already gotten concerned. It hasn't happened yet, but I brought it up because people that live in that area. So I know if we can do a petition process and so on and so forth, by the time that whole process is done and over with, it'll be after the fact. But in the meantime, to view the road and as to what damages there are. Well, lost Zoom.
What? You're still here?
Okay, I can't see it on my screen. Okay.
Councillor Neal.
We're all good with that. Thank you very much, Jeff.
Thank you, Councillor Hanley. Councillor Neal.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Two other items or two other things regarding that is the timing of them telling us that they're going to close the tunnel, which from what I understand was probably on the Friday before the Sunday, which is not very much time. I think they had a small sign because I went through the tunnel on Sunday and I didn't even see a sign stating it was going to be closed. But I think there is a small one entering the tunnel. So I think there's two issues there, and I think, and we've talked about this before, is we got to stress to the MTO that they have to put good signage up and give it to us a few weeks or 2 weeks beforehand so that the people that are going through the tunnel know that they have to go alternate routes.
Thank you, Councillor Neal. Anyone else? Is that it? Okay, thank you very much. We're going to move on to delegations to report. Do we have a... And we have a speaker, Jason Brower, architect from Brower Architecture, on interim director of planning and development services, PDS 2020-21. Is Jason ready?
I am here. I don't know if you can hear me.
I can hear you, Jason.
All right, great.
Can everybody hear Jason?
Thank you for having me. I will keep this brief. Speaking to the minor variance for the Kottmeyer Road project, I understand that you would have all of the documentation in front of you. So the reasons for the variances, which are minor in nature, is just so that we can build primarily on the south end of the property. The lot coverage statistics for the zoning are fairly low given the use compared to what's typical. And we're asking for a variance for a couple of the setbacks, the south side and the west side, so that we can utilize the regular shape of towards the north of the property for our septic bed and our stormwater detention area primarily, as well as our parking. And due to the fact that we have a 14-meter MTO setback to deal with as well, we needed to have the building a little bit more to the south in order to make that work. And there's also a variance requested for the planting strip along the property line, which the detention channel will be somewhat grassed as well, and it's not really shielding anything, as is noted in the report. So we think that variance is suitable as well. Unless there's any questions, that's pretty much all I have to say on it.
Thank you, Jason. Does any councillors have any questions for Jason? Go ahead, Councillor DeRose.
For you, Mr. Mayor. Jason, can you tell me the actual size of the land you're speaking of, please?
The actual size of the lot?
Yes.
It's 16,613.9 square meters.
Square meters?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any further questions for Jason? Seeing none, thank you, Jason, for your presentation.
You're welcome.
Consent reports. Councillor Kenny is the mover. Councillor Hanley is the seconder. Does anyone want to pull a consent report? I got Councillor Kenny. Go ahead. Want one? I can't hear. Go ahead.
PWCS 2020-14.
Okay. And I seen a hand up for Councillor DeRose. Go ahead.
For you, Mr. Mayor. 2020-15, 2020-23, and 2020-27.
Could you say those again, Councillor DeRose?
PWCS 2020-15, 2020-23, and 2020-27.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
I seen Councillor Longo's hand up.
Mine was taken care of, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, is anyone else? Okay, so we're gonna, first of all, we're gonna pass the consent reports that weren't pulled. So we have DF 2020-10, PWC 2020-13, PWC 2020-24, PWCS 2020-25, CC 2020-22, and CC 2020-23. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, so now we'll start with PWCS 2020-14, and that was Councillor Kenny.
Yes, it's on the redesign of the workstations, and we've budgeted $500,000 to that. I think it would make it more congested in there, and I guess my issue is that if we go ahead with this, and then with this COVID thing going on, and we have to redistribute some of the people and spread them out more, I think we might be wasting a whole lot of money right here. So I'm just wondering if we should wait on this one.
I'll let our Director of Operations and Community Services speak on this. Jeff?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yes, a concern that we've taken into consideration. As part of our exercise and our due diligence, we're getting some advice from public health. Based on our preliminary conversation with them, they're indicating that the return to work is going to focus on employees protecting themselves and not relying so much on workstations being the sole cause of trying to protect employees. So as an employer, we have a responsibility to protect our employees. We're aware of that. But what we're proposing here is, although they're smaller workstations, the partitions are higher. They're a little bit more private, and but that's not to say that we're not going to have to do more work to look at maybe the HVAC system and some other policies that will have to do with the timing of when we have lunch hour and how we work breaks, for example. So yes, there's some work that needs to be done, but it really has more to do with practices as opposed to physical office sizes and limitations. If you felt it was important to wait, we could wait, but our thought was it's not likely to change that dramatically, and that this would be a good opportunity for us to get in there to the office when we're not having staff in there and complete the renovations, including all the electrical work, and complete the work so that when everyone's ready to come back to work, they'll be in a clean and safe place.
Okay, my concern was that, like I say, that we do spend a whole lot of money here, and then we get some regulations from the government where we've done some things that, don't fit the criteria, and we got to spend more money. So if you feel that the criteria is gonna be met, that's fine. I'll let others speak.
Okay, I've got Councillor DeRose. Go ahead, Councillor DeRose. Yep, unmute. You have to unmute your microphone.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I have to agree with Councillor Kenny. To the Director of Operations, to you, Mr. Mayor, are we just guessing on this, Jeff, or is it, like, to me, it's just an educated guess?
Mr. Mayor, yeah, fair enough. We're looking as we go. We don't have past experience on this, and that's why we reached out to Public Health. Would be able to tell us what the best practices are across the region.
Thank you.
Okay, I got Councillor Hanley. Go ahead,
Thank you,
Councillor.
Mr. Mayor. Seeing that we are going to be going into post-COVID-19, have we made any considerations in regards to 8 Carlton Street and the upstairs? There's been discussion in the past of everybody's always wanted to be utilizing this space. We looked at it before as possibly using it as an engineering space for our engineering department. Maybe now, seeing as Councillor Kenny just mentioned that stuff, this may be an opportunity to expand upon office spaces and occupy 8 Carlton Street and make it so that's a safe work environment for everybody, or a safer work environment. It's dead space, not costing us, it's costing us money for nothing. Just a thought.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I'm acting on the direction of council from last December, which pushed us in this direction to create new workspaces at City Hall. If you wanted to reverse your decision, that's fine. But I think we need to think about, in a post-COVID recovery period, when people come back to work, including some people who have already started with us, they're going to need a place to work. They need a workstation, they need a computer, they need a safe place to operate. And if there are issues with respect to safe distancing that haven't been thought of, or there are new regulations that are coming, we've already been working in the last 6 weeks. Some staff have been working from home. That can be a cost-effective solution, as opposed to starting from scratch and revisiting the whole 8 Carlton issue again.
Well, I respect that too. So maybe we could follow the step, and at a future meeting, I could bring something forward in regards to 8 Carlton Street and the direction we might take with that. I respect everything, but that, we done past that in December, not knowing, none of us knew it was going to be coming in the the future, but we may need to look at occupying that space and using it for our benefit in the future.
Is there anyone else? Go ahead, Councillor Wilson.
Sorry, I had to unmute myself there. I totally respect what Councillor Hanley is saying. However, I do think that we had a plan in place. I don't think that's going to change. I do believe the province is going to start opening back up again. It already is, right? And we're going to have need for the staff, and they are going to need a place to work, like Mr. Holman said. So I believe we just, we've invested so much time and taxpayers' money into preparing these workstations, doing the research, doing the planning. I think it's irresponsible to just stop now, pivot and look at another space. I feel that we just continue as we had planned, and I think, okay, maybe they won't be occupying it in the next month, but certainly this year that would be happening. I think the cost of changing now outweighs the potential concern. I just don't see that we're never going to be back in the same workplace together. So that's just my opinion. I think we stay the course, and we had our staff work on this. Let's let them move forward with the plan. I don't want to restart again, and then we're another year behind. That just doesn't make financial sense to me whatsoever.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. I got Councillor Decker. Go ahead, Councillor Decker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to reiterate what Councillor Wilson said. I agree with her, and I have all the confidence in Jeff that he's making the right decisions, and we should leave things as is and just continue in the path that we're going now, and perhaps bring it up at another time, like Councillor Hanley said as well.
I have the CAO that wants to chime in.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have looked at 8 Carlton earlier, and the reason why we have decided to update the City Hall here and create more workspaces here, so that if anyone is coming to the City Hall, is one service shop that they can pay the financial bills, or they can talk to the building department, or with understanding that this expansion is going to buy some years, and ultimately if we go further expansion, we might need to go to 8 Carlton, but this expansion here would able to satisfy our needs for, I would say, about next 3 years or so. We did consider, as I said, we did consider 8 Carlton in the past, and the reason, as I said, then we have to have, initial thought was that we'll have our engineering departments or building department relocated at 8 Carlton, but then it was decided that we have, based on pros and cons, it is better to have everybody here. And I understand what council has raised the concern about post-COVID, and we understand that, and that, as I said, the safety and well-being of our staff is utmost important to us. That is the reason we reached out to Niagara Region Public Health. They are the lead agency in this kind of, so what we have done is we have reached out to them, and based on their advice, we will move forward. So at this point in time, if you look at it, some of our staff, they are not even 6 feet apart. If you look at our bylaw staff or our building staff, they are pretty much sitting on each other's lap. That's the way. So moving forward, we, as Jeff has mentioned, by providing better ventilation, better HVAC system, and have better partitions, I think we could able to accommodate here. But yes, we need a sign off from Niagara Public Health that yes, it is safe for us to move in that direction. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Councillor Kenny.
Okay, the reason I asked to pull this report was simply to get an answer from Jeff on this. If he's fully confident that we're going to be all within the rules of the COVID after the fact, I'm all right with that, and I'll support the staff and what they think. I just wanted to make sure we weren't spending any money here that was going to be a waste of money. Okay, that's it.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Kenny. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Oh, I had a mover. Am I using the same mover and seconder? Okay, because we pulled it. Okay, so mover, Councillor Kenny. I need a seconder. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Decker. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, PWCS 2020-15. Who pulled that, Councillor Counselor DeRose, so he's the mover, and I need a seconder for that. Give me a seconder here. Counselor Longo. Okay. And I'll turn this over, first of all, to Jeff Holman, our Director of Public Works and Community Services.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
Can we group number 15 and 27 together? Because I'm going to ask the same thing.
Is that okay? Is it okay with everybody that we group 15 and 27 together? The streets.
Purchased and equipment for the
Yeah.
operation.
Is anyone opposed to that? I see no one opposed. We'll use you as the mover and our seconder. Who was our seconder there? Councillor Longo. So on those two, when they're both on equipment, purchase a single axle combination plow and sander unit and street sweeper purchase. So I'll turn this over to Jeff Holman.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The dump truck purchase, the dump truck purchase is using development charges. It's something that we need because our current fleet isn't able to keep up the same level of service. So it's being funded primarily from development charges, I think entirely from development charges. These pieces of equipment take about 8 to 10 months to deliver. They come from the United States. So if we order them now, we'll have them probably after. We might be able to get some use out of it next January, February. So we'd like to move ahead with that. And with respect to the sweeper is needed to replace the one that we currently have. Although we've been able to patch it together this year to complete the spring cleanup, it's had to be, we're spending a lot of money on parts and maintenance of it, and we need to replace that sweeper as soon as possible. Again, it has a delivery time of about 8 to 10 months, and we'd like to have it in place so that we can start the program next spring.
Okay, questions? Go ahead, Councillor DeRose.
For you, Mr. Mayor. Jeff, do you know how many, my point of bringing these up is that I'm wondering why we can't share these two expensive pieces of equipment with a local community. They're promoting to do things in tandem and with teamwork, collaboration, save our, economies of scale, and save our city some money, our taxpayers some money. So I'm just wondering, how many hours does the street sweeper use? Like, did you guys track that for a yearly amount or a monthly amount, or just to wrap my head around it? Because I'm wondering, almost a $500,000 piece of equipment, is it possible to share it with another local community that's close by?
Yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Good questions, and we do track the time. We do track the hours, and the challenge that we have with sharing equipment is that everybody needs it at the same time. We are looking at a different model for leasing equipment. Sometimes those costs are as expensive, but we can look into that a little bit more. I think at this stage, we want to make sure that we have access to equipment when we need it, and so ownership is the best option at this point. I can give you some stats on the equipment if you'd like to see it, but something of this nature we would like to have in our fleet as opposed to waiting for somebody else to share it with us.
Okay, Councillor DeRose?
Thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Mr. Holman. Jeff, question on the street sweeper. Did you say we were replacing the one we have, or will this be a second unit we have?
This will be, sorry, Mr. Mayor, this will be a replacement, Councillor. The one that we have is, I can't really say what the age of it is because we've replaced so many different parts on it, but it's close to the end of its life, and it doesn't make sense for us to keep it in the fleet any longer.
Okay.
So at the end of this season, we'll put it up for auction and try to recover some salvage value from it.
And another question, if I could.
Yeah, go ahead.
regarding this new piece of equipment, we have, as you know, expanded our neighborhoods greatly. Port Robinson West, Rolling Meadows, etc. Do we sweep streets out there? Pardon me for my ignorance, but I don't know.
Yeah, great question, Mr. Mayor. To Councilor Longo, we will, in those areas, those sections of the new subdivisions that we have assumed are our responsibility, so we'll send the sweeper out there. There are some projects that are being built, like Rolling Meadows, in multiple phases, where we ask the developer to take responsibility for any mud that gets tracked onto the roads. So we use them and their resources to clean up areas that are related to development. But yes, we will be having our sweeper get to those new areas of development that we'll be assuming in the next year or so.
Okay, which is great because we need to service our growth, obviously. So are you confident that this new piece of equipment will be able to handle the existing old part of Thorold in our new neighborhoods?
Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah. Yes, Mr. Mayor. Yes, the equipment fortunately can work longer than the number of hours that are available for the operators. So we'll be able to work on weekends and overtime situations to stay on top of the dirt and debris that gets tracked throughout the area. Initially, we have the spring cleanup where you have the road sand to clean up. And then during periods like we've gone through recently where we get a lot of tracking adjacent to development, this will do the job for us.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Seeing none, we're doing PWCS 2020-15 and PWCS 2020-27. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, and we have one more item, and that is Arena Ice Plant Replacement Design Award, PWCS 2020-23. And again, I'll ask Councillor DeRose to move that, and Councillor Longo, you're going to second that?
Yes.
Okay, and so I'll turn that over again to our Director of Operations and Community Services, Jeff Holman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What we're asking for is authorization to complete the engineering design to test the ice plant and to make sure that it's fit so that when we start it up, hopefully this fall, any improvements or repairs can be put in place to make sure we can put ice in the arenas.
Okay, speakers to that. Any questions? Councillor DeRose, go ahead.
So is this just a design of it? I thought it was, we were designing to get a new one. Am I correct or not?
Well, Mr. Mayor, that may be the end result depending on the scope of the work. What we're looking for here is a comprehensive review of the ice plant, how it functions, and what are the immediate repairs. We'd like to have kind of a long list of improvements and determine what we need to get through a couple more years, if possible, and what we need to do right away in order to have ice at least in one path.
Go ahead, Councillor DeRose.
Now, Jeff, through you, Mr. Mayor, is that kind of outdated since it's a year old now? Are they going to come back at us and say it's going to cost us another 10, 15% more? Or is that a possibility?
Mr. Mayor, I don't know what they're going to say. That's why we want to get a good look at it to see what improvements need to take place. I would much rather have this investigation completed in advance as opposed to until something breaks down.
Okay.
Go ahead, Councillor DeRose.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, just because at the end of their overview, they state that all the stipulations are currently being met by the facility. So I'm assuming they found everything status quo or working properly so far. Am I correct?
Go ahead, Jeff.
Mr. Mayor, I think what we've indicated is that we're operating in compliance, but we're running out of options to do temporary repairs. So some of these things may have to be addressed in a more formal and a more fulsome way. This testing and this design work will help us see how we can modify the plant to keep us going for a couple more years.
Okay, any further questions? Go ahead, Councillor Longo. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you to Mr. Holman. So will any of this work be attributed to the White Arena? Or is this strictly for the Doherty Arena?
Go ahead, Jeff.
Mr. Mayor, so we know that the Doherty Arena needs to be operated at full capacity. The White Arena, we know we have to keep in place until the Canada Games facility comes online. That date has been pushed back and is uncertain at the moment. So we're looking out only a couple of years on the White Arena, as opposed to something that's going to be long-term. If the recommendation that comes back is that we need to spend a considerable amount of money just to keep the basic level of service, that would be the subject of another report, and we can make a decision about what happens at that stage. But right now, we're looking at how we're going to keep this ice plant going for the next couple of years.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any further questions? Seeing none, I had a mover and seconder. I had Carmen, Councillor DeRose and Councillor Longo. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay. That takes care of all the consent reports. Now we move on to discussion reports. The first report up is PWCS 2020-11. I have a mover, Councillor Wilson, and a seconder, Councillor DeRose, and it is the Thorold Pool Capital Upgrade Project, and I'll turn this over to our Director of Public Works and Community Services, Jeff Holman. You got a busy night here, Jeff.
Yeah. I know. Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'm not sure if the process requires me to read the recommendation, but I can do that. So the recommendation.
Yes, it does. You have to read the recommendations, Councillor Holman.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, Councillor Holman, Director Holman.
Thanks. So the recommendation is that council approve the tender award for the Thorold Pool Capital Upgrade Project to Brampton Paving Company Limited, Preston Construction, in the amount of $79,500 plus HST. And two, that any actual cost variances in the project components in excess of the budget amounts be reallocated for the remainder of the project components that are below the budgeted totals. Three, that the start date for the project be determined once the provincial state of emergency restrictions allow construction activity of this nature. And four, that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to execute the necessary contract documents.
Okay, is there any questions on that report? Councillor Hanley, go ahead. You have to unmute.
Just in regards to the lighting, you know, I know in that it's been 11 years and I'm not sure if it's incandescent lighting there or if it's LED lighting, and I'm wanting to know, do we know what we're replacing it with? Because there's an expensive difference in costing for LED lighting to incandescent for in-pool lighting. First question. Will we know that as part of it? Because I see we need to replace several of the light fixtures. So I'm wondering, I can tell you the reason I'm asking before you answer it, because my research shows me that a LED lighting for in-pool is 30,000 hours, whereas an incandescent or fiber optic is between 5,000 and 6,000 hours. And what it would cost us to replace them would save a significant amount of money, seeing that the pool's only actually been in operation 38.5 months and maybe 11 years old. but it's only actually operated 38.5 months of those 11 years. 1,140 days, and the lights have only been on for 9,120 hours. So I'm just looking at, because it could be a substantial amount of savings over the lifetime.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Say that in the report.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the lights are being replaced with LED lighting.
Okay, I appreciate that. Just to give you some, because the iridescent lighting in there costs about $32 a year a light bulb, and an LED light bulb would cost us about $5. Seeing that we had the. Now another thing, I don't know if you would know this, Jeff, by Ken in the pool. Is there any other updates that are becoming? Is the pool leaking? I'll be up front. I've heard rumors that in the past we've been losing water in that new pool. We've been having to refill it because it's leaking.
I'll turn that again over to Jeff.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yes, there are some cracks, and some of the parging near the top of the walls are starting to pull away. And the result is that water is getting back in behind, and if it's left unattended, it could cause some problems for us structurally in the future. So yes, the pool does need to be fixed just to make sure it doesn't get worse, and also to control some of the leakage.
Okay, thank you very much.
I got Councillor Kenny.
What's going on here?
Okay, now I got you.
Okay, that's what my question was. It's in the report. It says holes in the plaster that's allowing water to go beyond the pool walls. And now we're paying $70,000 to get this upgraded. I think we got to take better care of our assets. To be fixing the plaster that's allowing the water to go through the walls. The gripping around the pool, it says, is no good. The lights have to be changed. We should be doing something every year, not spending $70,000 in 1 year. Like I said many times before, we came on council, we fixed about 6 roofs in 1 year. We gotta maintain our assets. That's better. If this was our hope as it happened, so I think I'd really like to do a better job in maintaining this asset anyway.
Thank you. I've got Councillor Decker. Go ahead, Councillor Decker.
Thank you.
I'm just concerned, Jeff. I understand, probably don't know the anticipated open date of the pool this year, and if it's even going to open with the COVID-19. But would these repairs have to be done prior to the pool opening, or would the pool still open and the repairs be done?
Go ahead, Jeff. Right. Right?
If we decide, if we're in a position where we can open the pool,
Back.
and have to worry about problems with having to cordon areas off or areas that are unsafe for public use.
Okay.
So I understand that, and I'm good with the repairs and whatnot, but I do agree with Councillor Penny. I mean, pool maintenance is really important, and the pool's not that old. It's only, what, 11 years old, or so. And I agree, it's not like your fault or our fault, but yeah, we need to make sure that the maintenance is kept up like yearly on the pool and stuff, and that if there are any issues, that they get, nipped in the butt before that they get out of control. That's it.
Anyone else to speak? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? carried. PWCS 2020-16, I have a mover, Councillor Decker, and a seconder, Councillor Neal, and it's the 2020 Urban Roads Program Tender Award Contract Number 102EN0002. And again, I'll turn this over to our Director of Operations and Community Service, Jeff Holman.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. The recommendation is that Thorold City Council acknowledge the 2020 Urban Roads Program as a priority for the community and direct staff to commence construction on or in compliance with the applicable provincial orders. And two, that the tender for contract number 102EN0002 Urban Roads Resurfacing be awarded to Norjon Contracting and Paving Limited in the amount of $367,605 plus HST. Number three, that project savings of $94,442 from the OSIP grant be transferred to the Sullivan Claremont Reconstruction Project design to allow the reallocation of the capital asset transportation reserve funding to the Front Street Reconstruction Project. And four, that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the necessary agreement.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Is there any questions for Jeff on this issue? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. PWCS 2020-18, I have a mover, Councillor Hanley, and a seconder, Councillor Sentence. Front Street Reconstruction Project Tender Award, and again, I turn this over to our Director of Operations and Community Services, Jeff Holman. Go ahead, Jeff.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. The recommendation is that Thorold City Council acknowledge the Front Street project as being a priority for 2020. Construction will commence in accordance with all provincial orders and guidelines. And two, that council approve the reduction in the scope of the project to exclude the reconstruction of Front Street from Claremont Street to the south limit of Front Street. And three, that council approve a reallocation of federal gas tax funding in the amount of $446,703 and $53,297 to the roadway and storm sewer components of the project, respectively. Four, the council approve a reallocation from the Water Capital Reserve in the amount of $12,718 to the water main component of the project. Five, the council approve the reallocation from the Capital Asset Transportation Reserve in the amount of $66,214 for the roadway component of the project. And six, that the council award the tender for Front Street Reconstruction Project to Peters Excavating Limited, amount of $3,857,308 plus HST. Seven, the council approved the engagement of Associated Engineering Limited to complete the contract administration at an upset limit of $180,000 plus HST. Finally, eight, the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the necessary agreements.
Thank you, Jeff. Any questions for our Director, Jeff Holman? I have Councillor Longo. Go ahead, Councillor Longo. There, you're good.
Just a few short months ago, we passed a budget to complete this job at $3.8 million. Can you explain how it could come in over $1 million higher than we budgeted?
Go ahead, Jeff.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. The short answer is no. We used the budget figures that were advanced by the consulting firm based on market conditions at the time. I think perhaps in tendering this work now, although there are a lot of firms that are anxious to get started, there is some uncertainty as to the cost of materials and so on. And perhaps that has provided an upward pressure on the project cost.
Councillor DeRose.
Mr. Mayor.
Oh, you're not done? Go ahead, Councillor Longo still.
So we're going to have a reallocation of gas tax dollars to help try to alleviate our shortfall. Could you tell me what projects that's going to impact in the future?
Go ahead, Jeff.
Thank you. So Councillor, so in order to make the project fit the budget, we reduced the scope of the project, eliminated a section of we had planned to do, and the reallocation of the gas tax was from a reserve. So moving forward, does it affect any future projects? I would say probably not, although you know, any money that's sitting in reserves that's being used for a specific project is obviously not available for us in the future. Our hope is that that when we get to do the Claremont Street project, we'll be able to add this piece that we've deleted from this project. And we know that there's discussions at the federal level about a gas tax. We hope that that comes to fruition as well. But at the moment, we're going to use the reserves that are available to us because we know how important this project is to the community.
So you mentioned that we're changing the scope of the project. We're eliminating, I guess, part of Front Street, which would be south of Claremont and Sullivan. How much are we saving by not doing that section at this time?
Mr. Mayor, I believe that we're looking at a cost reduction of about $600,000 to eliminate that portion.
Okay. Thanks for your answers. I appreciate they're not easy, and I know it's a difficult time. I'll just make a comment, Mr. Mayor. I'm not going to support this. Not that I don't want Front Street done, but this is way too much money to put on the backs of taxpayers at this time, and I'm just not comfortable moving forward with costs like this. It's just seems to be it's a 25% increase from 2 months ago. So that's just my comment. Thank you.
Okay, I've got Councillor Neal and then Councillor DeRose. Go ahead, Councillor Neal.
Thank you very much. Some questions. Peters Construction, I don't know that construction company. What is their history?
Peters Excavating, Mr. Mayor, has completed a number of different projects of this nature. They provided all this information in advance as part of our pre-qualification process. I know that my personal experience has been with them when they rebuilt Queen Street in Niagara Falls and performed the work in an exceptional manner. So I would say that they're competent and able to do this work.
Thank you.
Is that it, Councillor Neal? I can't
hear him.
Can't hear him.
Can't hear him. Can we?
Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
No, can he hear us maybe? He can't hear us either, right?
Fred, unmute. Fred, unmute.
I don't think he's on mute.
I don't think you can hear us.
I can't hear it, no.
Can't hear him. I'll disagree with him.
Well, can we move on to Councillor DeRose until?
Yeah, go ahead, Councillor DeRose, then we'll try and go back to Councillor Neal, okay?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Jeff, no offense, but I'm having a problem digesting a 25% increase in if I was doing a job at my house and 2 months later the guy says it's going to cost me 20, I have a problem with that. And no offense, you're doing a great job, but the explanation just doesn't sit well with me. And I can't support a 25% increase in a project that there's no explanation as to inflation in a couple months. There's no way. So I'm having a problem with over a quarter increase in the cost of this project. Thank you.
Councillor Neal, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, you want to speak again? Because after your first question on the contractor, we couldn't hear anything you said. Could you repeat it?
Okay, I just reiterate Councilor DeRosa's in regarding the $738,000 increase, and I think we have to do an analysis and look at it because we're going to have other projects to look at down the road. My last comment was regarding we have 50 to 100 businesses downtown. We have to look after them, and this project should go ahead because it's all part of us getting back to work again, and all those small businesses do carry other people and workers, and I believe that this project will help revitalize the downtown.
Thank you. Councillor Sentence.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. Just for clarity, I don't like the increase either. I think our downtown has waited a long time for this and needs it to go forward. But is it, you say gas tax, what is the implication on the taxpayer? What is on the levy for the increase? Does it hit anywhere on the levy, or is it just through reserves? Or maybe Maria's the one to talk to, I'm not sure.
Go ahead, Maria.
The overrun itself is not being funded from the levy. It is being funded from a portion from federal gas tax and some from the water reserve and some from the sewer reserve. So indirectly, is there an impact to the levy? No, there isn't. But of course, as you use reserves, it may impact you in the future because, you know, the funds have been utilized. To Councillor Longo's earlier question, there was a placeholder in the federal gas tax to do St. David's Road, which was deferred until 2021, and that's the part of the funds that we will be utilizing for this project. The federal gas tax is replenishable at this point, so we do expect another $570,000 minimum in 2021. So, you know, indirectly, there is no direct impact to the levy. I believe in the original numbers, there was a very small amount that was being levy funded. Don't quote me, but I think it was about $38,000. But, you know, long term, as you use reserves, you know, the funds won't be there to do other projects.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one more question, or one more. I think this project has to go forward. It's been a long time coming, a lot of planning, a lot of hours put into it. I'm glad to hear it's not directly hitting the taxpayer. That's good. And we'll have to deal with it with gas tax money in the future. And that's just my opinion. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Decker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So are we depleting all the funds then in the reserve account?
No, through you, Mr. Mayor. We will be depleting the federal gas tax portion. That will go to zero. But again, we anticipate that we would get an additional $570,000 next year for federal gas tax. Perhaps they'll do another doubling up, a top up like they did this year where we got double the money. We did Barron Road with it. For the capital asset reserve, transportation reserve, I think it leaves us with about $1 million in that reserve, which I think we should maintain a balance just in case any of our other projects or this one runs into any difficulty. And you know, we need to utilize a reserve. The other thing is, you know, the $1 million, if the federal government or the provincial government does come forward with some stimulus money, at least we have something that we could pay down our share of any stimulus funding for grants.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we're working hard with Vance. Our MP Vance Badaway is really working hard to try and get double the gas tax funding and rebrand it like we did last year. So that's something we're really pushing for. The gas tax is there. It's not going away, but we're trying to get that gas tax to be not a one-year increase, but a permanent increase. And it's something that our MP is really lobbying for at the federal level. So that's just a little input on the gas tax. I can just say that from my personal, what happened?
Jim's sharing the screen.
Okay, we're all back.
We're all back.
Yeah, the businesses downtown, this is a good time to do this project because of the position we're in. The last thing the businesses downtown want us to kick it down the road, and then when they get back to normal, we're shutting the street down again. And that's why it's so significant that this project get done this year. Anyways, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay. PDS 2020-21. I have a mover, Councillor Longo, and a second, Councillor Kenny. And this is regarding where we had the presentation earlier. Are we having a presentation from city staff on this at all? No? Okay, the minor variance application for Thorold PT Lot 147 RP 59R 13649 Part 1 Cottameyer Road. It's Planning and Development Services. We have no speaker to this. Are you going to read the report? Oh, Denise is on. I'll turn this over to our manager of planning, Denise. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The recommendations of the report are as follows. That council support the recommendations contained within Appendix 1, and that council consents to their electronic signatures being added to the notice of decision for their minor variance application. We added this second recommendation this time to eliminate the need to email all of council and get their responses. So this will address that, and we won't need to do that again. And this concludes the report.
Are there any questions for our manager of planning, Denise? Go ahead, Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Denise. Denise, are there any hesitations on staff's part granting this?
Through the mayor, no, we are in full support of the application.
Okay, and a final question. Has there been any written or verbal response from any of the neighbors?
Through the mayor, no, we have not received any comments from the public on this application.
Thank you.
Is that it, Councillor Longo?
That's it.
Any further questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Any notices of motion? Seeing none, we have nothing in closed meeting. We move to bylaws. I have first reading of the bylaws. Mover, Councillor Wilson. Seconder, Councillor Sentence. That leave be given to introduce the following bylaws. Bylaw 57-2020, Bylaw 58-2020, and Bylaw 59-2020, being in that the same now be read a first time. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. That the bylaws just read a first time be read a second and third time and do pass, and that the mayor and clerk do sign and seal the same. Any rules of this council to the contrary notwithstanding. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Adjournment. Councillor Decker is the mover and Councillor Longo. All those in favor?
Can I make one quick comment?
Yes, go ahead.
Mayor, if I may?
Yeah.
I'm just finding out right now. I may need
I can't.
help from Councillor Sentence, but our donor is constant. No, I may need just to use the city parking lot or whatever. He's just texting me now, so just to let you know where
Councillor Hanley, I can't hear you. I can't hear you. You want to go again?
And, I'd just been in contact as the meeting was going on with the donor that's been taking care of the citizens. And he's requested that we can do a town Thorold.
Do another one downtown?
Thanks anyways.
Okay,
Yes.
thanks for that news, and we'll get that posted.
Friday.
When?
I'll contact you tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. I'll contact you tomorrow and give you all the details.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Opposed, carried. Listen, thanks, everyone. We got through another virtual meeting. Cheers.
Bye, everybody.
God bless.
Smile.